So dear chess lovers, it's white to play in this position. What would you play with white? Can you see a very promising plan from this position? My goal with this video is to show you how good plans emerge from pawn chains and how once you read the pawn chain properly, good ideas will come to your mind naturally. I will show you crucial French defense patterns in this video, while also showing you a chess classic played by Greco around 400 years ago. I will come to this position very soon, but just to show you how this game emerged, e4, c6, interesting. This starts like a Caro-Kann defense first, right? But we go for the advanced variation, and then black kills their bishop by playing e6. That's already a chess crime. Also, that's my final goal with this video, is to show you what a chess crime looks like, so you start avoiding those moves automatically. By playing e6, black is giving up on their bishop on c8, right? That piece will be a crying piece for the rest of the game, right? Bishop b3, a6, one more bad move, wasting time in the opening. White builds the center, so black goes c5. White, of course, maintains this pawn on d4, very important central pawn, takes, bishop b4 check, knight c3. Black commits one more crime while taking the knight on c3 unprovoked. That knight was a pin piece. The bishop is black's good bishop, right? In this pawn chain, that bishop is a good bishop. That bishop is a bad bishop. One more terrible chess crime. And now we are reaching this critical position. White defends the pawn. White castles short. After knight e7, here we go, guys. And now it's your turn. We are back to square one. White has a huge advantage because black killed their bishop and black exchanged off their good bishop unprovoked. But now we need to find a good plan to play this position. What are you seeing, folks? What are you seeing? If I give you two choices, do you go for the c4 pawn break, or your game plan will be f5 pawn break later on? Before I show you the solution, one more break, very important one. I will show you that Greco game which I mentioned, which he played with the white pieces in 1620. It's around 400 years ago Greco played this game with white pieces. Please watch. This starts like a French. He plays against NN, obviously, not known person, amateur. Amateur plays c5, Greco plays c3. We see a very quick exchange on d4. They can't keep the tension. Can you see this check? Does it remind you of my French game, guys? The first game I showed you? Well, one more chess crime. They played like NN, the first guy, and now unprovoked exchange of that good bishop for that knight, which was pinned, obviously favors white in this position, okay? Knight c6, the knight hits nothing, just a bad piece. Greco, of course, builds a bishop on this beautiful square on d3. The game will resemble the one that I showed you. That's why when I saw that first game, guys, this Greco game came to my mind directly. Knight f5, knight f3, of course, white develops their army on the king side. After knight f3, castle short. Here comes my question to you, folks. Please stop the video here and guess Greco's plan. The pawn chain is telling you something. You should read the pawn chain and you should find a beautiful, crushing plan indeed. The move is g4, guys. We are kicking that knight while also preparing the advance of the f pawn. The e5 pawn is already giving us so much space on the king side, very typical French advance pattern. There is no knight f6 to protect the king side. The bishop will be an excellent piece on this diagonal. Meanwhile, the pawn chain is pointing towards the king side. Our play lies on the king side. We have more space on the king side, and naturally we want to grab even more space and advance the pawn to f5 in those positions. If you didn't play g4, black might consider the move h5 to stabilize the important knight while also making it a little bit more difficult for us to play g4. That's why Greco plays the move g4 directly. Knight h4, Greco simply castles short. Having said that, even the Greek youth sacrifice was winning here in this position for white. Takes, knight g5, follow it up with queen d3, going for the mating idea. Well, g6 allows queen h3. Can you see it, folks? Queen h7 is a devastating threat. The knight cannot move, so we'll pick the knight on h4. Of course, it allows rook h8 after queen g3. White still keeps a winning advantage, but Greco keeps it simple. Greco simply castle short in this position, and now nobody's stopping the plan of f5. So they took on f3 very quickly. I will show you how the game ended. One more piece has been developed on f3. Now f5 ideas are gaining strength to also activate our bishop. This is clearly the case of pawn chains, and what should be our plan around the pawn chains. Please observe how strong f5 pawn push will be for white. Bishop d7, f5 is a good move, but Greco plays direct queen h3, forcing a concession on the king side. Can you see it, folks? Now g6 is more or less forced in this position, but now our push, you guessed it right, f5 has gained strength. Now we achieved our goal, the plan accomplished. The final point of f5 is obviously f6 followed by queen h6 and queen g7 checkmate. Can you see it, folks? Once this concession has been created on those dark squares, f5 is gaining strength. Hook pawns, of course, e6, g6. We also want to open up lines on the king side while also activating our bishop on c1. Everything was pointing towards the break f5 already from the position. But now after takes, Greco finds a direct finish. He takes back with rook in his position, folks. One more piece has been activated. The king is weakened after takes. This mate cannot be stopped. They resigned in his position because nobody's stopping the move. Queen h7, well, h6 allows queen h6 anyways, and now comes checkmate. So they resigned after takes. Can you see it, folks? Now you know this Greco game. Can you see how already from this position strong players see the plan of g4, f5 directly? By studying those classical games, by understanding why those ones are the best moves, those plans should come naturally to you. You don't touch that pawn because that pawn is covering your central pawn on d4. The center is so stable. White is a very strong pawn center. Thus, we have green light on the flank attack, right? Flank attacks usually work in chess if and only if the center is stable. Here we have a beautiful stable center, so we have all the play on the king side. Once again, pawn chain was pointing that way. Generally speaking, we want to place the second pawn next to our most advanced pawn in chess. Our most advanced pawn sits on e5. Naturally, f5 becomes our game plan. Now you know Greco's game. Please, guys, tell me the correct plan for white in this position. What will be your game plan with the white pieces? First, I will show the mistake my friend did in this position. A very instructive mistake. Then we will discuss the good plan for white in this position. He played the move c4. When I look at this position, I was like, what are you doing? Why are you weakening your pawn on d4? Why are you not really playing on the king side? But very importantly, guys, the bishop on c8 now has a chance to awaken. The bishop was a dead piece in the structure. By playing c4, my friend give black a beautiful chance to change the pawn structure and awaken their dead bishop. What will be your game plan with black in this position, folks? A beautiful positional exercise. Of course, d takes c4, takes b5 tempo on the bishop, follow it up with bishop b7, and that dead bishop is becoming a very beautiful piece on this long diagonal. Can you see the effect of that pawn disappearing from d5 and how it directly connects to the bishop's activation? Also, as I said, now black is direct counterplay in the center of the board. This will repel our kingside initiative so clearly. Beautiful connection between center and flank. Because the center is no longer stable, black has counterplay in the center of the board. Also, the bishop is controlling those central squares. We have no real attack on the king side. Black is very close to full equality in this position. It all happened because white played the move c4. Please look at the connection between you playing c4 and black getting this central counterplay. Not to mention knight d5 ideas obviously as well in the center of the board. Okay, going back. It's a clear chess crime to push c4. The pawn is already guarded. The pawn is the least concerned on c3. That pawn importantly stabilizes the center. Thus, all of our game plan involves we pushing the pawn to f5. Even pushing directly is a good move, but I would first play the move bishop a3. Why not? Because our unopposed bishop awakens on this diagonal. You'll place it on d6. You also make it more difficult for the knight on e7 to move if they ever castle in this position, which means f5 will be strengthened even more. Okay, so after bishop a3, I will show you a few lines to tell you the strength of white's initiative on the king side. We can park our bishop on d6. What a beautiful creature, hitting queen as well. Okay, Let's say they go to d8. Just a few sample lines to tell you how white can improve on the king side. For example, we can play f5 because the knight is pinned, right? Because of the bishop on d6, the knight is sort of pinned. If they take on f5, then we can bring this guy to f4, hitting the weakness on d5 as well. White is very happy to bring pieces to the king side one by one. For example, queen h5, getting ready for those ideas on the king side. Just to show you the attack's potential, I will give you a few lines. This is a very nice line. b5 is the only counterplay for black. They need to play b4. Why? Because they want to destroy this beautiful pawn chain that stabilizes the center, right? So b4 is the only idea to disturb us. I very much like the prophylactic a3, stopping b4 altogether and telling black, what is your idea, my friend? Look at your pieces. They are dead. The knight is terrible. The bishop is dead. The knight is pinned, also tied down on those pawns completely. Meanwhile, white is bringing all the guys on the king side one by one. Please watch, guys, just to tell you the initiative for white on the king side. White is winning, by the way, objectively. If you look at the engine, white is completely winning. I will show you a couple of lines, okay? Queen d7, let's say. Rook f1. I love that. Just one more piece to the king side. Rook g3. Threat is queen takes h6. King h8 stops that. Bring the final guy to the party, right? Everybody should enjoy this show on the king side. A beautiful piece activity for white. Rook c8, let's say. Yeah, they try to eye the pawn on c8. It's already too late. The rook c8, the thing is that the sacrifice on g7 is winning for white. The lines are a little bit messy, but if you're curious, please watch and follow those lines. Rook h3 attacks the pawn once again. Knight g8 is the only way, but then comes g4. One more attacking unit joins the party on the king side, and black cannot defend this position. They have basically just no moves left. I will take on f5, follow it up with opening up my bishop, and this game is over. But if you don't want to deal with those messy lines, you can also play like a human. You can bring the final piece to the action with rook fg3, because black has no counterplay whatsoever. Rook g3 is on the board, and now those ideas are gaining strength. Can you see it? Takes, 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 followed up with mate will follow. Black is busted on the king side. Knight g8 is the only way to cover. Even in this position, guys, rook g7 sacrifice is winning for white. The line goes like that, check, one more sacrifice on g8, and then follow it up with queen h6. The game is still finished, but queen d7 and f6 might allow some defensive chances. If you don't want to deal with those lines, you can also simply, in this position, play attack without sacrificing. You can simply win a pawn with bishop f5. White attacks without sacrificing anything. Now all those ideas are still in the air. Please look at the concentration of the white pieces on the king side, plus the bishop on d6, plus the pawn on e5. The black knight is dead. This knight does nothing. White is winning with normal play in this position. Knight e7 allows queen g5. The pawn is pinned, and this pawn is dropping on the next turn. After bishop f5, g6 obviously doesn't work, folks, because we are sacrificing a piece on g6 to rip open the king even more. This is just GG directly. They can't hold against all these checkmate ideas, mate in 3 by force. So bishop f5, black is really helpless in this position, guys. After takes, takes, the rook is also hanging. Those ideas are in the air, not to mention knight h5, not to mention queen g4. If they play the move knight e7, queen g5 finishes off the game directly. The pawn is pinned. Well, if they play the move g6, you know exactly what's going on the king side. These lines are joy to follow, guys. This is just game over. After queen g5, what can black play in this position, folks? Knight g6 just drops a pawn, plus our attack is raging on the king side, obviously. This game is finished. So after queen g5, basically there is nothing to do. Black needs to resign. My point is not to bog you with those calculations and lines. I want you to take a step back and understand how the plan emerged from this pawn chain. How white formed the plan very quickly for playing for the f5 idea from this very pawn chain. And white refused out of principle to make the move c4, which awakens the bishop but also destroys our beautiful pawn center. It weakens the pawn on d4, gives black counterplay in the center of the board, right? That's a bigger lesson. That's a lesson also from Greco's game. This pawn chain is already stabilizing white's game, so we have green light for the kingside push. So f5 was the game plan. You can even play f5 directly as mentioned, but why not to improve the bishop first and then go for this f5 push. Again, white can play other moves in this position, maybe queen c2, maybe other moves, but f5 line, direct line, also gives white huge advantages on the king side. This was my goal with this video. Hope you like those attacking motifs. How one by one white was bringing everybody to the king side, while black pieces really was disconnected from defending their king on g8. And how little prophylaxis against b4, basically mentioning that black is nothing because after a5 you can even win the pawn on b5. There's no more b4 idea for black, right? Beautiful prophylactic move, killing all the counterplay, stabilizing the center even more because there's no b4. Now white is really green light to bring every single piece to the king side, right? I also show you non-sacrificial lines to tell you how we have all the long-term advantages in this position, so there is sometimes not rush. You can keep on building to the maximum because there's no counterplay, and then you can either sacrifice and win or win without sacrificing with moves like that. So hopefully after this video, first of all, you will stop making those chess crimes, you will avoid moves like e6, and also you will avoid moves like take on c3 unprovoked, giving up your good bishop. And once you reach a position like that, I hope as white players you will avoid making moves like c4, obvious chess crimes, which awakens the opponent's bishop. And hopefully as black, if they play a move against you, you will take the first opportunity, right, to awaken your dead bishop by changing the pawn structure and placing the guy on this long diagonal, right? This game contains so many nice positional mini plans and lessons. Hope you loved it, hope it was useful, and hope your middle game strategy will improve after this video. I created an entire video on center and flank connection in chess. I will post a link on this video description. Please go and watch that after this episode. Wishing you all the best, and I will catch you on the next episode, guys. Bye-bye.